The Colombian House of Representatives approved the second debate on the government's health reform. In the framework of the 61st day of the Israeli side on Gaza, the Israeli occupation army is directing its genocidal operation against the Khan Yunis area southwest of the Strip. And in Indonesia, rescue teams found the body of the last hiker missing after the volcanic eruption, bringing the death toll to 23. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. It took 6 months for the Colombian House of Representatives to approve the second debate on health reform on Tuesday night. The bill proposed a profound transformation of the healthcare system and was supported by the Liberal Party and the EU Party. 10 hours of discussions and with the approval of 3 articles and the elimination of 2, thus completing the 5 articles necessary for approval. Article 122 and 123, which grant the President of the Republic the power to issue regulations with the force of law, were approved by an absolute majority.
No matter how many obstacles they try to impose on the health reform project, sometimes obstinate and often not sensible opposition, the Colombian government complies. It is advancing at this moment the health reform project in the Chamber of Representatives, fulfilling the promise of giving health to all Colombians, trying to bring health to the regions, especially those less attended historically.
On Wednesday, the government of Colombia made official its return of the Union of South American Nations, UNASUR, after almost 5 years of absence, a decision that responds to the country's committee with regional unity. The Colombian Foreign Ministry detailed that the return to the organization that emerged in 2008 also follows the call of President Gustavo Petro to strengthen the collaboration ties in South America. The Colombian Sovereign Ministry stressed that this step represents a milestone in its regional integration policy and demonstrates the country's willingness to work hand in hand with other member states to address the challenges and opportunities shared in the area. On Wednesday, the Venezuelan government issued a statement informing that Foreign Minister Ivan Hill had held a telephone conversation with Guyanese Foreign Minister Hugh over the Essequibo dispute. The statement informed that the call held at request of Guyanese side was meant to discuss the territorial controversy following the consultative referendum which took place on December the 3rd. According to the statement, the Venezuelan side took the opportunity to update the government of Guyana on the overwhelming participation in the popular consultation, which resulted in an unappealable mandate for the Venezuelan institutions on the road to follow for the settlement of this territorial controversy, which is the end of agreement signed between the parties in 1966. Furthermore, the Venezuelan side expressed the need to stop the actions of aggravation of the controversy in the territory of Guyana Essequibo and agreed to keep the channels of communications open. On Tuesday, Jose Casales, head of the public prosecutor's office in the municipality of Juan Escudero in southern Mexico, was assassinated. Local police said the official was shot in the morning hours as he drove his car in the Chilpancingo-Acapulco highway near the gas station. The public prosecutor's office announced that they have already started investigations for the crimes of the aggravated homicide. It is worth mentioning that in the last 5 days, 3 people have been executed in the same area. Joseph Vincent, a former DEA informant, pleaded guilty to the assassination of the Haitian President Jovenel Moïse. The accused of U.S. Haitian nationality collaborated with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, which has been linked to crimes perpetrated in July 2021. Several investigations assured that the assassinated president was going to send a list of people linked to drug trafficking to Washington. In a Miami court, Vincent, who was arrested together with several Colombians and Haitians, had initially said that he was hired by the assassins as a translator. Haitian Premier Ariel Henry confirmed that he held a meeting with the delegations of the United States and Guinea on Tuesday in Port-au-Prince. The Prime Minister described the meeting as a very important, without referring openly to the arrival of the international force missions to restore peace in Haiti. Henry explained that there had also been meetings with a High Transitional Council and that in the coming days, technical teams will travel to Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, to organize the preparations for a mission to be installed temporarily in the country. Mercosur foreign ministers meet on Wednesday in Rio de Janeiro in the framework of the summit where the states of negotiations with the European Union will be discussed. During the working session of the summit, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva hopes to close his pro tempore presidency of the Mercosur by finalizing the trade agreement with the European community that for more than 2 decades has been elusive to the regional bloc, and that the French and Argentine governments could hard in the 2023 event. In Brazil, social and indigenous movements gathered at the Mercosur Social Summit, which had not been held for 7 years. During the 2-day event, they denounced the violations in their territories and demands that the leaders of Mercosur participate in the definition of public policies. Luana Kengan, indigenous activists and representative of the articulation of the peoples of the southern region, stressed the importance.
So it is very important, this joint construction. We talk so much collectively, but sometimes, in some spaces, we do not have the opportunity to expose what happens within our territories, as for example today with the indigenous people of Brazil.
In Uruguay, the health workers strive for at least 15 hours during the General Assembly session in Parliament. The Uruguayan Health Federation called for a protest this Wednesday against President Luis Lacalle Pou's partial veto of the parliamentary proposal to honor the work credits of former employees of the Casa de Galicia, and the Uruguayan medical unions joined them. In this sense, those mobilized go directly to the Legislative Palace, where they will be a parliamentary session, while the demonstrators will be in the outskirts waiting for the legislators' response to the presidential veto. Let's take a very first break, but remember, you can now join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. On Wednesday, local media in Palestine report that in the framework of the 61st day of the side over the Gaza Strip, the Israeli occupation army is directing its genocidal operation against the Khan Yunis area, southwest of the Gaza Strip, where the heavy fighting with Hamas is expected to take place. Israel Defense Forces spokesman Daniel Hagari clarified that his troops expect on Wednesday to reach Rafah as well. In other hands, Premier Benjamin Netanyahu insists on Tuesday that the Gaza Strip will have to be demilitarized after the current war with Hamas, saying that only the Israel Defense Forces and not any international force will be entrusted with such a mission. In this context, the Gaza Ministry of Health has confirmed that the north of the Strip has been left without medical and health services due to the side of the occupier and the lack of fuel for hospitals. The ministry confirmed that a Kalman Awa hospital has run out of fuel. In addition, the side of the Zionist army continues in a vicinity with the IDF units surrounding health centers a kilometer away, according to reports. On Wednesday, Volker Turk, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, denounced that Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are living in apocalyptic circumstances and reiterated his call for immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
No place is safe. As we speak, some 1.9 million out of the 2.2 million Palestinians have been displaced and are being pushed into ever-diminishing and extremely overcrowded places in southern Gaza in unsanitary and unhealthy conditions. The catastrophic situation we see unfolding in the Gaza Strip was entirely foreseeable and preventable. My humanitarian colleagues have described the situation as apocalyptic. In these circumstances, there is a heightened risk of it.
Israel announced on Wednesday its decision to revoke the resident visa of United Nations humanitarian coordinator Lynn Haston. The incident is only the latest in a series of instances of Israel clashing with UN over the war in Gaza in ways that are uncommon for member states of the global body. The UN official warned that an even more hellish scenario is about to unfold, one in which humanitarian operation might not be able to respond, referring to a resumption of Israel's bombardment on Gaza. Meanwhile, South Gaza residents still first-person accounts of the relentless bombardment against civilians.
We were sleeping peacefully at night and the house was mostly packed with children and women. All of a sudden a strike hit and debris fell on us. Good Samaritans helped us and we sustained some injuries varying from bone fracture to injuries that needed stitching.
At around 20:30, I left the office where I work for the civil defense and headed home to eat and asked my wife to prepare some food, only to be hit by a strike as I was changing my clothes. Without prior warning or instructions to evacuate, fire was all over the place and I tried to cover myself with a blanket. I woke up later at the hospital.
Let's go over some key facts to better understand the devastating impact of the war on Gaza to this day. Since October 7th, at least 16,248 Palestinians have been killed in the Strip. This includes at least 7,112 children and 4,885 women. Also, over 3,600 Palestinians have been injured and over 7,600 remain missing under the rubble. After over 60 days of almost relentless shelling, over 50% of Gaza's homes have been damaged or destroyed. That is over 300,000 residential units. According to the UN, this has caused 1.9 million Palestinians to be displaced from their homes. The organization Save the Children has denounced that all the children in the Gaza Strip are in danger of being killed. The non-governmental organization, which has its headquarters in London, confirms that more than 1 million children, that is to say the entire children population of the enclave, have been left without a safe place to protect them from the bombing and armed confrontations. The organization's director in Gaza, Jason Lee, reiterated after the resumption of hostilities that orders issued by Israel are unworkable and put children at great risk. The Palestine mourners prayed around several bodies outside a hospital in a central Gaza Strip in the Gaza city of Deir Abala, following Israel strikes in the region on Wednesday. Thousands of bodies were brought to Al-Aqsa Hospital, including those who were killed in an airstrike that hit a house in the city. Others were also killed in an attack on a house in the Nusayrat refugee camp. The health ministry in Gaza said on Wednesday morning that the hospital had received the bodies of 73 people who had been killed in Israel bombardment in the last 24 hours period. Palestinian demonstrators gathered in the center of Ramallah on Wednesday to protest against the war of Israel and Palestine. The demonstration was called for the Fatah party of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. During the protest, demonstrators carried Fatah flags and banned condemning Israel's bombardment of the Gaza Strip. The UN says that 1.9 million people, more than 80% of the population, have already fled their homes during the ongoing conflict. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a meeting with families of hostages held captive by Hamas who condemned the Prime Minister's attitude. The families expressed harsh criticism against the Premier, calling his actions also ended disorderly. They assert that the real architect of the few releases that have been achieved is the leader of Hamas in Gaza, Hayam Sinwar, who returned them. The issue of the administration of the captives by the Hamas was on the table, but it was overshadowed by the desperation of the families whose relatives are still being held. On Monday, December the 4th, Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega addressed a letter to his Palestinian counterpart Mahmoud Abbas, in which he reinforced his country's solidarity with the Palestinian people. In his letter, Ortega stressed that their people have always been together and continue together, unite in all the battles for the national liberation which have involved them and which is behove them to continue fighting. Sure, in the knowledge that so much self-denial, steadfast sacrifices, and commitments to the conviction of the rights and defense of the sacred Palestinian nation will come to fruition in a new world that is already awakening and taking in a path. In this sense, the Nicaraguan president stressed that the whole human family shares for struggles and her determination for justice and peace. Finally, in his message of support, Ortega added, God continues to give us strength and fortitude to continue highlighting the weight of this world towards great victories, and your people and all combative people of races conscientious this service. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to join us on our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on the screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Consistent news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. One financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. The body of the last hiker missing after a volcanic eruption in Indonesia was found on Wednesday, rescuers said, bringing the total death toll to 23, 3 days after the disaster. Abdul Malik, head of the Padang Search and Rescue Agency, said that the joint search and rescue team had found a victim of the Mount Parapi eruption. The National Search and Rescue Agency earlier said that the latest victim was a woman named Siska. Mount Marapi on the Indonesian island of Sumatra speed at 3,000 meters at Pluma over its crater on Sunday as 75 people were walking in the area. Hundreds of rescuers workers tirelessly to find the missing hikers, 52 of whom were found alive in a complex search hampered by the water eruption and bad weather. Britain and Rwanda signed a new treaty on Tuesday in a bid to revive a controversial proposal by London to transfer migrants to this African country that was applied by the UK courts. The UK government said that under the new treaty, Rwanda will be banned by the international law not to return people to a country where their life or freedom would be endangered. That agreement, which UK Premier Rishi Sunak says is crucial to achieve his pledge of stalling regular migration before a general election expected next year, was signed in Kigali. It was penned by Rwandan Foreign Minister Vincent Biruta and British Interior Minister James Cleverly, who traveled to the Rwandan capital to salvage London's asylum bid to send migrants to Rwanda after the UK Supreme Court deemed the arrangement unlawful. On Wednesday, in West Africa, the government of Mali and Nigeria announced they have decided to cancel their fiscal cooperation treaties with France. The communique added that measure, which has a community scope in the European Union, has been implemented because of the hostile attitude of Paris. In this sense, they explained that the agreements also implied losses of resources for the country and taking into account that in 3 months they will expire, they accelerated the decision. On Wednesday, Russian President Vladimir Putin paid a working visit to Saudi Arabia, his second stop in the Middle East. The Russian president met in Riyadh, the Saudi capital, with Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The two leaders discussed all issues and regional conflict. Earlier, Russian leader Putin visited the United Arab Emirates in pursuit of the Kremlin's goals for a new world order. We have come to the end of this news brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscast and contribute to provide an alternative news sources of the latest world events. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and also use us on our socials from Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, I'm from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.